Okay. Very good morning to you, our partners in Singapore, Malaysia, and Brunei. Welcome, everyone. So I'm Amila from Connex. So we are the value-added distributor for AccuKnox. So today we are going to a laser focus on the biggest growth drivers in the region, AI and API security. So we'll show you how to turn these high-demand technical needs into predictable recurring revenue for you without adding any additional cost to your headcount. Today, joining me with Brian Lian, our solution architect at AccuKnox. So we'll cover how to plug AI, SPM, and API protection into your MSSP portfolio and build sustainable revenue across public sector, healthcare, BFSI, and enterprise segments. Ryan, good morning.
Morning.
So, Brian, when we talk about managed security, most partners are comfortable with basic cloud security posture management, right? So, and it is there for some time. So, where do AI and API security fit into an existing portfolio today?
Yeah, so I started my career as a security consultant and doing pen tests and incident response all over the world, and managed services has really sort of focused more on that basic alert management, and it's gotten more commodity. So it's really looking at alerts from firewalls and everything else that are highly tuned, etc., for people who either don't have the security staff, typically for people 7x24 security staff. So with cloud security, you've got not only a new area of alerts, because it's not just API and AI security, you've got everything that's coming out from the cloud, which is a whole new area of alerts, higher value than firewall alerts. But you've also got the very new AI, and it really allows you to not just monitor alerts, but also go in, because these things are constantly changing. You're changing the code, you're changing the models you're using. The off-the-shelf models are changing all the time. These are not deterministic, they're probabilistic. So you really have to test everything. So it's not just apply a firewall update and then watch for new things. You really have to do the testing every time there's a new model or they switch models, because it can behave very differently. So where we sort of work with partners and talking to customers about our solution is it really starts with that visibility foundation. Stay on that slide, Raj. Is gaining visibility into what do you have deployed, what are the misconfigurations, what are the vulnerabilities, and that in and of itself is a whole set of services you can wrap around, potentially re-architecting stuff for the customer, helping them with the remediation, whether that's executing it or planning it. But that gives you sort of that basic misconfiguration and vulnerability assessment, as well as just what assets are installed, what AI models, what AI components are they using in Amazon, Google, etc. Then you shift left into the development, and this is where you're tying into infrastructure as code, scanning their container images, their source code, etc., and trying to catch a lot of this stuff early in the development cycle. Again, more services to help you do it, or you can simply report on the findings. It also allows us to correlate those with the visibility foundation. So we get your API spec in shift left. We compare that with the API endpoints and APIs that we saw in the visibility step, and we can show where you have zombie or orphaned APIs. Now, once you've got that, you want to protect it. So that's where we shift right into runtime. And we are the only CNAPP out there that has runtime prevention, not detect and respond, but true prevention. We can apply zero trust. The recent Claude Code attack that happened back in October, November, we could have stopped that had we been running on that infrastructure. So this really lets us go in and for example, prevent our infrastructure from connecting to machines that it shouldn't, from running processes, accessing files that it shouldn't. But it also gives us something that many customers asking for which is guardrails, which is our prompt firewall, where you can actually sanitize what goes into the model or comes out of the model. And this really lets you, again, you're going to want to tailor that for example, which application. One application may need different protections than another. So you have that consulting of learning, using the visibility to map out what the protection should be. Now, different combinations of these three, Raj, if you go on to the next slide, manifest themselves into the components of CNAPP that many of you will recognize from CSPM, Cloud Security Posture Management, Workload Protection, AI Security Posture Management, etc. These are all different combinations of, well, what do I have installed? How is it configured? Tying into code, tying into runtime. So for example, AI covers all three of those. Application security covers all three of those. API security mainly focuses on shift left and visibility. But all of these sort of wrap around and use different combinations of those same three, but also using the information across these different modules. So if you go on to the next slide, Raj, I'll give an example of using a Sankey diagram. Raj, can you? Thank you. So here on the left, we're starting with the visibility. What do we have deployed? So we see all the endpoints. As we get into the middle, we've started to analyze some of that. Where did we see it? We saw some on the AWS API gateway, some on the Azure API management. You get into the middle and we're seeing things like, hey, there's sensitive information in this API. Now we start to add in, for example, your API spec. That's where we see the shadow API, the zombie APIs, because we can see in the API spec compared with what we're observing in the real world, whether those APIs are known, etc. Now, the really cool stuff is getting into that next stage where now we're going to take that API endpoint information and correlate it with all of the other misconfigurations, vulnerabilities, asset information, etc., from the rest of the other modules. And that's where we can flag, for example, hey, here are the exploitable APIs that you need to focus on because they've got sensitive information, they've got the machines they're running on have vulnerabilities. So all of that ties together and really allows the MSSP to wrap not only high value monitoring services for when an API goes out of use or when somebody adds an API that you didn't know about, etc., but also going through and again, architecting this, helping them remediate it, helping them make recommendations on how they can best segment and architect their network. These are high dollar consulting engagements. I like to mention that Amazon came out with a stat late last year that $7.13 of consulting services are made for every $1 of Amazon compute services. And I imagine Google and everybody else has got the same, but imagine that, $7.13 for every dollar that people are spending. So there's a huge untapped opportunity for there. In fact, Amazon even has new programs, one of which is Secure and Resilient Migration Assistance Program, where they pay you to not only move the customer's workload to the cloud, but if you do it and show that you did it with security in mind, you get paid extra. And that's from Amazon. That's on top of billing the customer. So you can see there's a lot of stuff here and a lot of components that you don't have to purchase all at once. Your customers don't have to purchase all at once. You can target it in a similar area, and it can even be part of an assessment. The system is multi-tenant, so you just have full RBAC access controls. So any of your staff that have access to a tenant, it's going to just be a drop down in the upper right of the screen. so they can immediately see all of the customers. So we are fully partner enabled, fully partner focused, and do a lot to help our our resellers as well, but services and MSSP partners.
Great, great insight, Brian. Yeah, so more AI, more LLMs, more API, right? So that's the thing. Okay.
And Amazon likes it because it encourages customer to spend more in Amazon.
Yeah, that's great. So, Brian, what are you hearing from the partners globally, or specifically Malaysia or Singapore? Are the customers especially asking for AI security, or it's a gap still mostly around API vulnerabilities only?
So it's sort of a combination. We're seeing. I'll actually throw out some examples. You could stay on the slide you were on, Raj. You can. I'm going to reference Brazil because I've been doing a lot of stuff there, and I think it's at a similar stage. There are a lot of people trying to move stuff to the cloud. So there's a lot of just, hey, I don't know what my cloud security posture is. I don't know what the developers have deployed, and needing to know what that visibility is. Then they've got a lot of focus around AI. APIs are sort of, it's not that they're focused on, hey, I need to secure my APIs. It's, I need to secure AI. And oh, by the way, there's all these APIs like MCP. I don't know what it is. How do I check the security, etc. So the APIs is more of a indirect requirement as opposed to a direct requirement. The ones I'm seeing the most around are assessments and rollouts around general, I just need to know what my cloud security posture is, and a lot of very strong focus around AI because it's, I need to do red teaming on my models. I need to know the security of all the components. I need to certify what models can be used. I don't know how to do this. How do I apply guardrails? How do I protect the model from being exploited? And a lot of it, they just simply don't know because the AI space is moving so quickly. They don't know what the components are. It's completely new. And that's where our product, by just connecting to, for example, Amazon's management backplane, gathers all of that for you. And you don't have to understand the how. We give it to you in the traditional format you're used to, which is, here's a vulnerability. Here's how to fix it. Here's a misconfiguration. Here's how to fix it. We even have AI to give you scripts to fix that in bulk, which lets you also add more value to your customers.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, so continue on the same subject right now. Can you walk us through like a BFSI scenario? Something will say the bank, using internal AI model with LLMs, how does the AccuKnox provide visibility and protection for those specific AI workloads on-prem, and they are associated with the APIs,
It's really tied to the standard rollout. They're rolling out an application. They're actually slowing down. They've got compliance requirements. They've got, they want to respond rapidly to the market, but they can't because, again, they don't know the security. They don't have a way to look at, for example, this application that was developed on-prem and get it rolled out to the cloud. So our ability to handle things, both on-prem and in the cloud really allows us to help them plan that migration and look at the security before it's migrated to the cloud. So they're not injecting new vulnerabilities or known vulnerabilities into the environment by rolling out to the cloud. And then once it's out there, they can move it into its secure environment. They can test it to make sure that it is still secure and nothing has changed in the migration. And now they can roll out applications, roll out AI changes, etc., at the speed of the business, as opposed to really slowing things down by not being able to do it and just saying no, and then going, it's going to take us 8 weeks to do a security assessment. Instead, we're doing this stuff every night and giving them that report. and then giving them lots of ways to consume that and get it in the way that is most effective for them.
Okay, got it. Okay, yeah. So it's another layer we are adding into, your infrastructure. And okay, so now our partners, right? So they're already running MSSP programs. So now we'll try to understand how the packaging and bundling going to work for their existing offerings. So Brian, how are the partners actually billing for this? So are they offering AI security as a service, or can they bundle it into their existing managed CNAPP packages?
Yeah, Raj, can you skip forward 2 slides? Thank you. So typically, it depends on the partner. Sometimes they're already offering cloud services, so it's sort of an addition to existing cloud services. Maybe they're already doing some cloud monitoring. Most of the partners I'm talking to, this is becoming the start of their cloud offering, because it's really taking the existing skills they have around traditional misconfiguration and vulnerabilities, etc., and giving them those cloud versions that their team may not know how to get. We get it for them. So now they can start going into cloud services. So it's typically brand new cloud security offerings. Others are already doing some cloud security offerings. Maybe they're just doing firewall monitoring for firewalls in the cloud. It just depends on the partner. They are a broad spectrum of what they offer. However, our product really allows them to move into the space or expand what they're already doing by picking modules that really line up with their skill set. So, for example, in Brazil, the government is pushing AI. They're like, hey, we were behind cloud adoption. We don't want to be behind AI adoption. So they're really encouraging people. And as a result, Amazon is working with us and Brasec, our distributor in Brazil, to push out. Amazon is actually pushing out to all of their Brazilian customers a cloud assessment service. And we can do that with your partners and Amazon for your territory, whether it's AI or just general cloud security assessment. But we can go through and, for example, say, oh, if you're making a move into application protection, then we can help you structure a service around ASPM. If AI is big, we can help you structure a service around there. If you just want the basics of cloud posture management, we can help you with there. All of these we price to the user in individual ways. They don't have to get everything. They could just buy API. You can even use it as an assessment to basically get an understanding of what they have deployed, and then go and say, okay, now here's the services that would go with that. So we have, for example, API. We also price it based on where the value is. We don't see that the value is in one endpoint getting 100 API requests. We see the value in there being 100 API endpoints that may be getting one request, maybe getting 100 requests. But the key is knowing that those 100 endpoints are secure, that their APIs are not shadow or orphaned. That's where the value is. That's the value we deliver. The fact that that API is used 100 times is really irrelevant to the value we deliver, because you're looking to us to find the misconfigurations and the vulnerabilities, and that doesn't happen by the API being used one time or 100 times. It also makes it much more economical for the customer, and the API security probably has the biggest price difference between what others are charging in the market, because they are charging based on consumption. But generally, we are 30+% cheaper than other solutions, and we don't force you to buy everything.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it's if you compare with like traditional NOC and SOC services, right? So this is more in line with like a VAPT or a pen testing kind of exercise, or a gap analysis kind of a thing. So you can do a API gap analysis for the customer, then you can move into the MSSP service, showing them what is missing, why the visibility is important, right? So then you can put it as a service top of the other services you are delivering.
Yep.
Okay. So moving on. So from the regional perspective, how do the margins, the pricing, these specialized AI API services compared to legacy infrastructure monitoring? So how the pricing model to the maybe for the Asia APAC region?
Yeah. So the the monitoring service is really based on your partners, what they're charging. We aren't looking to take any of the revenue that you earn from doing the monitoring. We're looking at basically getting a portion of the revenue from the software sale, not the services. So you make 100% of the services offering, and then depending on what the service is, if you're an MSSP, for example, we split the revenue 50-50 with you. If you're reselling the product, then it's the normal partner margins, and we have some offerings which Raj will talk about as soon as we're done here around some incentives for everybody attending this webinar. But the prices are really based on what your customers are paying for those monitoring services in your area. We can help you structure them, but in terms of pricing those services, that's really more up to you. We do see some changes, on monitoring in certain areas. Because, for example, in the US, if you don't want your stuff monitored by people outside the US, then you've got to pay more. If you're willing to have it monitored by people that are outside the US, then you can pay less. So there's also a scale of the service, but that again is how you've structured your overall MSSP service. It's not really unique to us.
Okay, it's pretty much flexible, right? So,
yes.
And so I just want to tell the audience who's logged into the call, if you have any questions, you can post in the chat. Then Raj and Brian can answer those questions as well. Okay, so same thing, right? When you come to the delivery model, right? So now our partners may be using their SOC or NOC services with some skill sets, some employees, so, and there can be, kind of concern for partners. It's a new service. So do they have to hire a new skill or a new employees to deliver this AI and API security as a service? Or they can use
that's what I mentioned earlier. We're doing all the how. So we're giving you what we call a finding, which is this asset is misconfigured in this way, and here's how you remediate it. This asset has this vulnerability, and here's how you remediate it. This is out of compliance. So you don't need to understand, well, how do I check the vulnerabilities on an AI, AWS Bedrock installation? All you need to do is understand that it's misconfigured, it's vulnerable, and we will give you the steps, assuming you're doing the remediation and not just telling the customer there's an issue. But you don't need to understand, you don't need to be able to do that manually. We abstract that out so that all you need to do, a finding to us, whether it's a traditional misconfiguration or vulnerability, when you look at it in the interface, it's going to appear in the same way. Now, we do have some screens that are specific to, hey, here's how you can see everything related to AI or APIs, or software bill of materials. But ultimately, the individual results are all findings that can also appear on the finding screen. So no, you don't have to ramp up the team. Now, the more your team does have some of those skills, you don't need a lot of them, but if you have people that have some of those skills, then in the earlier phases, it allows you to offer more services in the assessment phase, where you're going to recommend architectural changes around AI or API. For that, you will want to know something, because that's going to go beyond just fixing one issue and is going to go into, well, you may want to use a different component, and there is some requirement to understanding, but you don't have to do that. The monitoring side of things doesn't require that.
Okay, so it's a kind of a guided remediation. So
Yes,
The same analyst who's managing the SIM or the EDR solution can manage the AccuKnox solution as well. So
absolutely.
it's just, yeah. Okay, so that's great. Yeah.
Cool.
And
So
so
with
is
that,
anything on deployment side, Brian, you can highlight? So for the partners, who can, just
the
starting
deployment,
anything.
it's pretty easy, and Raj is going to show a POC process, but it takes like 15, 20 minutes to do the install. So this is probably a good point to shift it over to Raj so that he can talk about that.
Okay. Raj?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I know, and like what Brian has been describing, we have a very dedicated partner-centric model, and our goal is to make the partner successful. And our success lies in yours. So we have a very good go-to-market plan, and the way we train people and the way we provide all kinds of collaterals and just like this webinars to educate our partners. All these things are all part of our go-to-market strategy. You can go to the next slide that can show you the flow of our go-to-market plan. The next slide, please. Yeah. So the onboarding part, right? Training module, which is both for sales and technical training, and you get a certification, a badge to display on your LinkedIn profile or wherever you want to do that. This provides a great enablement, so the partners are able in a very methodical manner for both sales and technical training. And then we also do target account map. And we'll work with, we do account mapping periodically so that there is no kind of any kind of stepping into each other's shoes for each of the partners, right? So they have multiple partners. We want to make sure everybody is taken care of and everybody is working within their swim lanes rather than stepping into each other's shoes. So that is have a great demand gen team which will help you with the target account mapping and work with you on providing the necessary reach outs to the customers, to potential partners and customers. Sales support, right? That's another thing which is very important. Like this, where we have webinars to educate people, blogs, multiples of blogs, and then videos, YouTube videos. Our demand gen marketing team is always on target, and we have so many of videos on each of those aspects that Brian talked about, on AI security, on API security, on CNAPP, on each of the CNAPP modules like ASPM, CSPM, any of those, right? There is a lot of education material available both on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, as well as on our website. So please make use of all those things, right? When you as a partner, it is important for you to represent us as we would represent AccuKnox with a customer. That pricing, we already discussed about it, and we are very good in responding back to any of your RFPs or RFQs and work with you to make sure that we are working with you within the budget and make sure that with your requirements. And we have a wonderful deal registration program. So anybody who registers a deal, right, any of your sales partners or anybody like that, right, will be able to get an additional incentive of 5 to 10%. So you already have that program. So it's all part of the program. We have a very methodical way of doing it, and we are focused here to make you successful. Our goal is to make the partners successful, and with the partnerships and across the board, right? So in I think I would say that, and then Brian mentioned about the POC. So the POC is as quick sometimes as 1 week to, it could vary to months also, but typically we try to make it so that there is a POC checklist and a POC success criteria. So we discuss all that with the customer, discuss with the partners, and then we go work according to that and make sure that every one of the aspects are covered, and we could conclude the POC and make sure the customer is happy in a very quick manner. So those are some of the things which we have. I want to give some time for any questions if there is any, and make sure that we are able to take care of address any of the questions that you may have or your partners may have.
I think it's a well thought process, right? So I can see. So you describe every area. Yeah, it's very clear. And another thing is like you mentioned the POCs, right? So POCs we can put as a gap
The POC
analysis.
is the next slide.
Yeah.
Can you?
So you can use it as
There
a
you
gap
go.
analysis exercise as well, right? So rather than saying a POC, you show the gaps in the API stack and the LLM stack. Then then that give the need and the budget for the customers to put it as a service.
And we can provide a free risk assessment too. So like there's we can go into their cloud assets or anything, look for any kind of vulnerabilities, provide them a free assessment. So that way they understand that how this process works, and be able to go and talk to the customer about the need for the security, right?
Sure.
So those kind of things we can do. So this is like very, very clearly demarcated stages of our POC execution, where we do an asset inventory onboarding and discover the risks and perform prioritization and remediation. So these are the kind of things that we do. So and then we ensure that the success criteria for the customers are met.
Yeah, that's really very clear, Raj. So yes, we can and our
And as a thank you for attending this webinar. Right, we want to provide some special incentives. We will send the details through Amila. We want to provide additional incentives for closing any kind of opportunities in the first 6 months after this webinar. Brian talked about it, and we will send you the details through Amila, and your Amila can share it with all the partners that have attended this webinar.
Okay, and few more things. Just want to inform you guys, like teams, So like you can register on AccuKnox partner portal, right? As a next step, then can attend the upcoming virtual workshop on AISPM technical deep dives to get idea, how whole thing works. And you can reach out to Connex and my team, for a regional onboarding. And ASEAN region, you can contact us AccuKnox at support@AccuKnox.com. So thank you, Brian. Thank you, Raj. Thanks everyone for tuning into this webinar. So goodbye from my side. So we'll meet again with another AccuKnox session soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.